Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really important certification in cybersecurity, the EC Council's Certified Threat Intelligence Analyst, or CTIA. We're going to break down what it is, how you can pass it, and most importantly, how to make it a real game changer for your career. So let's dive right in.
So let's start with the big question, right? This is the core challenge. It's one thing to know about threats, but how do you actually prove you can cut through all the noise, find that critical signal, and turn it into intelligence that helps your team take real defensive action? Because that's the skill employers are absolutely desperate for. And that brings us to the core philosophy of the CTIA. It's all about the tradecraft, not just the tools. Look, anyone can learn to use a specific piece of software. But tools come and go, right? They get outdated. What's timeless is the methodology, the analytical process you use to figure out what an adversary is trying to do. It's about learning to think like an analyst, and that skill is way more valuable than any single tool you'll ever use. Okay, so keeping that big idea in mind, tradecraft over tools, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly is the CTIA, and what does it really prove you can do?
Here it is in a nutshell. The CTIA is designed to validate your skills across the entire threat intelligence lifecycle, and that's the key right there. It's not just about one part of the process. It's about proving you can manage the whole shebang, from figuring out what you need to know to collecting the data, analyzing it, and finally delivering a report that actually helps drive defensive decisions. And this is what really makes the CTIA different. First off, it's lifecycle first, which means it follows the same process that real analysts use every day. Second, it's framework aligned. This is huge because it means you're learning to communicate using structures like the MITRE ATT framework, which is the language modern security teams speak. And maybe most importantly, it's impact driven. The whole point is to create intelligence that makes a difference, that improves a defense or stops an attack in its tracks.
All right, so you're interested. How do you actually get started? Well, you've basically got two options. The first is the official training route, which is pretty straightforward, or if you've already got at least 2 years of InfoSec experience under your belt, you can apply to go the self-study route. It just gives you some flexibility, depending on where you are in your career. Okay, let's say you're in. You've decided this is the path for you. Now we need to decode the exam itself, because studying smart, not just hard, starts with knowing exactly what you're up against.
So here's the lowdown on the exam itself. You're looking at 50 multiple choice questions, and you've got 2 hours to do them. You need to hit that 70% mark to pass, and the good news is you can take it remotely. Here's a pro tip. Try to get through all the questions in the first 60 minutes, flagging anything you're not sure about. That leaves you a whole second hour to go back and carefully review your answers.
Now think of this chart as your study guide's North Star. It tells you exactly where to focus your time and energy. Just look at this for a second. Data collection and processing alone is almost a quarter of the exam. Add in data analysis, and you're talking about 40% of your total score right there. So let these numbers guide how you prioritize your study sessions.
And let's make that even more practical. If you were to dedicate, say, 60 hours to studying, here's what that actually breaks down to. You'd want to spend about 15 of those hours on collection and processing, and another 10 on analysis. See, this isn't just a random list of topics. It's a real, actionable roadmap for how to use your time effectively. All right, so we've covered the what. Now let's get to the how. We're going to map out a 90-day plan that makes preparing for this exam feel totally doable. Think of it as a 12-week sprint. You kick things off in the first couple of weeks with just getting oriented and making a plan. Then you move into building your foundation with key frameworks. Weeks 5 to 7, that's your heavy lift, the deep dive into data collection. After that, it's all about practicing analysis and reporting, which leads you right into a final dedicated week of review before exam day. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but this structure makes it manageable. Now, this is super important. Let's talk about the traps you need to avoid. First, don't just study tools, study the tradecraft. And please, don't get obsessed with indicators of compromise. They expire. Focus on adversary behaviors instead. Always write your reports for your audience, not for yourself. And don't skip the structured techniques like analysis of competing hypotheses or ACH. It's basically a way to force yourself to check your biases and test your theories against the evidence, so you don't just jump to the easy and often wrong conclusion. So, you Did it. You passed the exam. Huge congratulations. But honestly, getting certified is just the start. That's where the real work and the real fun begins. So let's talk about how you turn that certificate into actual, measurable career impact. Here's a simple 3-step plan. First up, you've got to build a portfolio. You need to be able to show your work, using redacted examples, of course. Second, learn to speak the language of your stakeholders. An exec doesn't need the nitty-gritty details a SOC analyst does, and vice versa. And third, use your intelligence to drive real outcomes. Propose new detection rules, recommend changes to security posture, make things happen. And this right here, this is what that impact looks like on a resume. Think about how much this one sentence communicates. It shows you understand requirements, it maps your work to the ATTSE framework with specific techniques, and it quantifies your result. 2 new detections and a 12% drop in false positives. This is how you prove your value, plain and simple. And last but not least, don't forget that the learning never really stops. To keep your CTIA certification active, you'll need to earn 120 credits over 3 years. Think of it as a commitment to continuous learning, which is absolutely essential in a field that changes as fast as this one. It keeps you sharp and it keeps your certification valuable. So we'll wrap up with this thought. The CTIA gives you the tradecraft. It gives you the roadmap. So really, the only question left for you is this: what's the first problem your future team needs you to solve? Thanks for tuning in.